Free agency for the Pistons is right around the corner. Let's talk about six guys that I think it's very likely that Troy Weaver picks up one of these guys. When you look at a roster, this has been the theme in our videos over the last 2 days. What is the thing the Pistons are missing? We have athleticism, we have youth, we have talent. What we lack is shooting. We need shooters. And I think bringing in veteran shooters is the best possibility. You could bring in some young shooters as well. And we've kind of done that by signing Buddy Boeheim, a couple of other guys. But you're not going to rely on those guys to consistently make shots in an NBA game. So I just want to talk about some guys that I think, hey, you know what? They could make some big shots in an NBA game because they have in the past. And these are 5 or 6 names that I have been seeing really all over the place. And for multiple teams, they've been, because who doesn't need a shooter? Like, who doesn't need a shooter? But we do need a shooter. So the first one is the Lansing, Michigan native Spartan. All right, Bryn Forbes. All right. Now, this is a guy, he's only 6'2, so he is a guard. You're not going to play him at the 3 spot. In fact, he'll be an undersized 2 guard. He's not going to bring you a lot defensively. But what he is going to bring you is he is a career 41.3% 3-point shooter on good volume in his NBA career. So he's never demanded like a big salary. I don't know. I don't think he's ever made over 4 or 5 million, to be honest with you. But he's one of those guys where it's like, okay, cool. Bryn Forbes, I like what he does. He comes off and he can shoot. He can just flat shoot. So he'd be kind of a fun thing. I just don't know how many minutes he would get in the rotation at our guard rotation. So that would be a thought. Next one, I'm going to talk about this one really quickly. He just played for the NBA defending champs with the Warriors. It's Otto Porter Jr. He's almost on the wrong side of 30. He's 29 yet. He's been a good shooter. He was a good athlete earlier in his career. He has definitely slowed down. This would not be a good defensive pickup. It was fun watching him play the small ball 5 for the Warriors. He wouldn't be doing that for us. He would be a guy that would give us spacing and shooting at the 4, and a guy, like I said, that shoots about 40% on his career. The next person that I would like to look at is another guy that can play that 4-3 spot is Taurean Prince. 28 years old, 37, I believe, career percent 3-point shooter, plays good defense. I think this is probably kind of the best all around player that I have seen in these things, because he would give you good defensive. He is a veteran and he can shoot the 3. He's also probably the worst 3-point shooter of all the people that I talk about. So very interesting guy here. Still athletic, could be a good defensive stopper, but yeah, he's one of those guys. The next guy I want to talk about is the wild card. It is TJ Warren. This is kind of interesting to me. TJ Warren is an interesting pickup to me because he's coming off a foot injury that has caused him really to miss 2 entire seasons. The last time I saw TJ Warren was in an Indiana Pacers uniform, and he was just lighting up the Pistons. He was shooting. He was coming off the bench, and his job, it was very obvious, was to come in and score. I want to say that was like 2014, 2015, something like that. He was averaging over 15 points coming off the bench, just going nuts. Well, recently, before his 2 years that he was hurt and he was struggling, he was a guy that all of a sudden started going from being a mid-range and getting to the hoop guy to like, hey, I'm going to start shooting 3s. And the more 3s he took, the better he shot. I think he was at almost 43% in the 18-19 season. And then the year after that, he was still up over 40%. Like, the dude was hitting 3s. Here's the question here. You know he can score. You know he can shoot. The question is, where's his health? And if his foot is not there and he's lost his legs, then now you were looking at a guy that the jump shot's probably the first thing to go if he doesn't has the legs. So you want a guy that you can count on. This is with a lot of salary cap room, though. Here's what I will say about TJ Warren. this is the kind of guy when, if you're Lions fans, Brad Holmes has mastered the prove it deal. I'll give you 1 year, you can prove it. This would be a perfect thing. It would work for both sides. TJ Warren could get playing time. He could be a scorer, probably coming off the bench, maybe not, but most likely coming off the bench. And he could have a chance to prove that he still belongs in this league and he can still be a good scorer in this league. And the Pistons would have to pay him for 1 year, and then they can decide what to do with that money afterwards. So it'd be kind of perfect. And now I've saved what I think might be the best two for last. So, and I'm saving the best for last, in my opinion. But the first one is Gary Harris. It's another Michigan State guy. Look, we all know I like Michigan. I'm a Wolverine. We got a lot of Wolverines on this team. We're fine, right? So, got Walton in the G League. We got Isaiah Livers on the big squad. Like, that's all right. We're doing good. We got our Michigan boys in here. So why not look at a Spartan? That's okay. He's just a guy who it seems like he should be 32. He's had enough injuries to be 32, but he's 27 years old. He's always been kind of a streaky shooter, but a good shooter, 38% from deep. And as you can tell, all this is looking at what he can do from deep. He's a decent defensive player. I would actually honestly say that he's a good defensive player. And he's a guy last year that kind of held the ship together in Orlando while there was a bunch of young players. The question is, does he want to do that again in Detroit? I think Detroit has a better core. And at only 27, like, it might be one of those things where he can come here for a year deal, but then even stick around because he's not that old. It could be a good fit here in the D. So the last person that I want to talk about is the one that is just the most intriguing to me, and also the one that's probably going to cost the most money out of all this, and the one who you're not going to be able to give a 1 year deal to, unless you give him a ton of money for 1 year and not a prove it year deal, but like, hey, give him a lot of money and then he can get another contract next year. And that is Malik Monk. Malik Monk played well this year. He started scoring. Honestly, his play has gotten better over the last 2 or 3 years. It was a rough start to his career. He was young. He didn't mean, like, to get anywhere crazy. He was one of those guys that, like, it was a slow start. I think it was in Charlotte that he was playing, and I'm like, man, this guy looks like he looks like a player. There's a lot of them that reminded me of Brandon Jennings. It was probably the lefty thing and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, man, oh man. But he wasn't shooting well. And then all of a sudden, in the last 2 or 3 years, he started shooting. He's 24 years old. Last year with the Lakers, he shot 39% on his three, and he was over 40% the year before. So, like, this is a guy that finally is starting to hit on his round one talent, which is how he was there. So, anyways, here's kind of what I'm looking at. We have a bunch of shooters that we can get. We need shooters. I don't care how we get them. I don't care if we just sign them outright. I really don't. I don't care if we take on a heavy contract. We've talked about that in another video. It doesn't matter. I think you need shooters on this team, and I think everybody would agree with me. The athleticism is now there. The youth is there. Shooting is lacking. So maybe go out, get one or two of these guys. The one thing that they all have in common is they're all at the 2 or 3 spot. And I would love to get a shooter at the 4 spot as well. So look for Troy to sign 2 or 3 guys that are shooters, that you can kind of sprinkle him in the starting lineup. That'll also be on the bench, and he's really going to rotate this well. But you always want to have a couple of shooters. Honestly, you'd rather have like 4 shooters in it all the time, but you always want to have a couple in each lineup so you can get at least a semblance of spacing. So let me know what you think of those 6 players. What is the guy you want the most? Who would you be willing to hand the most money to? Are any of them worth it? Leave your comments below. Hit that subscribe button if you made it all the way to here, and we'll see you on the next one.